Yeah, you watched the latest one about the archaeology one.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I think there was the character Hancock and the other character, the Dibble, Flint, Dibble. I think the character Dibble was, character. I'm saying character. This is a person, not a character. He was way more scientific in his way to bring out what is evidence, what isn't evidence and such. Hancock is, I would say, more charismatic, which is a dangerous thing because the charismatic person sometimes sound like they know more and they know better what's going on. Also, this, I've always thought, the British accent, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
You say anything, however stupid it is, you say it with a British accent, it sounds way more believable. It sounds like, oh, yeah, this person has a point. But yeah, I mean, let me start with one thing about science and what is evidence and what isn't.
Because you have also a little bit of a background, because before becoming architect, you went into physics, right?
Exactly. I have a bit of scientific training from my times in physics, and I could say that the lowest form of evidence in science is somebody saying, hey, I saw it. Yeah, look at this picture. I saw that. I saw it. That is it doesn't matter whom. If Albert Einstein said, yeah, the theory of relativity, I saw it, I believe it, then nobody would believe him.
The second one is a friend of mine told me.
Exactly. So you need a bit hardcore, more hard evidence that is something you can verify, something you can replicate. The other guy from this podcast, Flint, Flint
Dibble.
He was giving out a lot more data of his findings, not just, I dived with my wife and I saw this in the under pits of the ocean. It's like, it's for sure it's a reason to investigate it. I'm not going to say, oh, bullshit. No, it's probably interesting, but to say I saw it, that is the lowest form of evidence in the scientific community. Really.
Yeah, actually, the scientific method, from what I've understood, it's you have a theory, you have a hypothesis, and then you start checking all the things that might prove your hypothesis wrong. So it's not like about, I think this and then let's make it everything fitting so it works. It's actually, let's try it in all the conditions in which might not work. And if it still works, it means it's true.
Exactly. But that's what you do. But then there's peer review, which is somebody who is analogous to you, which probably somebody who doesn't like you and who's very happy to prove you wrong. He has to do these experiments as well. And if he finds evidence that proves you're wrong, he's going to shout at it, that you're wrong. And this is an idiot-proof, let's say, system where it's self-correcting all the time. And you propose an idea, it's experimented. The peer review, the guy who doesn't like you, tries to prove you wrong. If he cannot make it, then we start basing it as a scientific truth. It could be that this scientific truth later is expanded into something else. I'll give you a quick example, has nothing to do with archaeology. The law of gravity, Isaac Newton developed the equations for the laws of gravity. When you take these equations into very, very high mass, like the black holes and the stars and this level, for stars it works, but more massive black holes and these elements, these equations break down, they don't work. That doesn't mean Newton is wrong. It means that these equations have to be expanded. And this is where Einstein comes in. And general relativity and special relativity. General relativity and special relativity, if you apply it to low numbers, like standard size elements like moons, planets, they become Newton's equations. But Einstein is an expansion on something. This is very common in science because then people think scientists have their head up their ass, thinking, oh, scientists are changing their mind all the time. No, they expand on something once that thing is first proven as a scientific truth. But yeah, this guy was more, I saw it. It's not the best way.
Yeah, another thing that really caught my attention about Flin Dibble that he explained very well is that also archaeology, it's something that is based on big data. So they also take, each excavation is like a zoom in on one point, but then they coordinate all the data that they have collected and they look at the big picture, look into patterns. And so in this way they understand. And he explained, actually, we are looking for what you're looking for too. We want to find Atlantis. We want to find the mysterious civilization that for example, existed before the Ice Age or during the Ice Age in the Southern Hemisphere and stuff like that. We're just not finding it. And exactly what is great in this situation, in my opinion, is that Graham Hancock did this Netflix show, wrote a bunch of books, and they're really interesting because they, everyone wants to believe that something like this is adventurous, and you want to read these books and you want to figure it out. But also he can always say, like, he said, yeah, well, you have excavated only 5% of the possibilities. You don't know. How much have you excavated in the Sahara Desert? Not that much. And of course, if they excavate more, maybe they will find more. But maybe it's also not so doable. So he can cope on this idea that, see, the scientific world is not doing enough and they're hiding the real history. Because this is what he claims in his documentary. And what it bothers me is that these people are fucking successful. This guy is like sold probably millions of books. I saw his net worth is over millions of dollars. He flies in fucking helicopters over the pyramids and doing pictures, dives in this place. He has this awesome life. The guy, the Dibble motherfucker, didn't even have a Apple laptop. He had with this fucking shitty...
He didn't even have a shaver. Look, did you see his beard?
He didn't
Get
have
a shave.
Probably secondhand clothes and stuff like that. And this is something that from the Joe Rogan world of podcasts, it's coming out. All these people that are whining about how difficult it is, how they're getting canceled. I'm like, no, bro. Like, it's difficult if you're like normal person that has to wake up every day at 7:30 and go to a fucking work for 8 hours and be careful about every expense every month. So this is another thing that I really don't.
The canceling element. Yeah, that's a tricky one because I'm going to defend the Hancock character here a little bit because the argument often is like, well, you're doing great. Why do you complain so much about being canceled? But he is doing great because he decided to face the cancellation movement and fight it. You could easily back down, and then the people who are trying to cancel you, they will really put you down and put you in a hole, not kill you. I mean, like, not letting you any exposure, not letting you talk at all. So the cancellation, I'm kind of an enemy of that element. I saw a little bit of whistling going around during this interview debate. I don't know, where they throw at each other like, oh, you're misrepresenting me as well. You're using very toxic examples like white supremacy, because these examples from Hancock are in the text related with the Spanish conquistadors, which can be related to white supremacists. You have to be very careful using this, because I really doubt that Hancock is a white supremacist or trying to push some agenda about white people being better or something. It's more like some guy who has some wacky theories, which probably very weak theories, but putting that label, even if the label was not to him, but even putting it next to him, it creates already tension that it's kind of unnecessary, I think.
Yes, but I think that I've been watching a lot about this cancel culture lately. I've been reading about it. I agree with you. I'm totally against the cancel culture. And in America, it happens even in schools, which it's horrible because you're maybe a teenager, you said something wrong by accident. Now with phones and stuff, these things get recorded, and then your community cancels you during your years where you have to develop as a personality, and it's awful. And the moment where they were starting talking about this white supremacy, I thought that this guy Flin Dibble, it's a little bit stretching it. Although I got his point, because also he was saying that we have to be respectful to the indigenous population, because it's like, this is what in America, they talk a lot about this cultural appropriation because they don't have the identity we have in Europe. You don't need to identify with something because you come from Spain and you know about your heritage. I don't have to find my own identity, my own identity, because I have my heritage. But in America, a lot of people don't have a lot of heritage. And that's why they have to gather in these identity bubbles, like, I don't know, gender, race, even the generations, they split themselves a lot in between.
Millennials, X, boomers.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is one thing. But another thing that I think is that this guy, Graham Hancock, for sure didn't get canceled when nobody knew about him. and he started getting canceled when he was popular. Trying to get him canceled started probably when he was popular enough so that the scientific community heard about him, and most likely they started ignoring him in the beginning because, of course, the scientific community is a little snobby, and his theories are just ridiculous. And this guy showed it, like the Flin guy. So I think that this cancel excuse becomes the promotional topic. And they give him fire, they give him more fuel because they say these stupid things. He's white supremacist, and he says, see, they ignore what I'm saying. Instead, they're saying, of course, and some things are ridiculous when they said he's not white supremacist, that he hates Jewish people. Anti-Semite. Like, of course, I haven't read any of his books. I've watched a couple of episodes of his Netflix shows just to see. And it's a very sensationalist archaeology show where he talks about gods and a society that has spread around the globe. And as you said, he's very charismatic. He knows how to talk. He put the things the way it fits him.
The English accent, man.
It's
dangerous.
And I watched a similar documentary about the flat earthers, and they work exactly the same way. They say they have this theory, and they do exactly the same thing. They pick everything that fits their theory, but they're doing in the whole movie, in the background, they're starting to do this experiment where everybody's saying, well, actually, if they do this experiment, they got to prove that the flat, it's round, it's like a globe. And they did it in the end, and the movie finishes, spoiler alert, saying, oh, fuck, probably we did something wrong. But the experiment was correct, and they proved that
it was round. Damn. Okay. I mean, it is kind of ridiculous, the argument of, well, you haven't scanned the whole ocean. How can you tell for sure?
Exactly.
And it's like, you're right, we cannot tell for sure, but the absence of evidence does not prove you're right. It's just absence of evidence. We don't know. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Should they investigate more? I think so, because maybe there is something, but you cannot say there was something definitely, because no evidence, no grounds to put it in. It's very unscientific, really, how they were doing. It was kind of, my scientific mind was very cringing at the whole thing. Oh, I dived with my wife there. We risked our lives to get down there. Yeah, that's, well, good for you, and I'm glad you're okay, but that is not evidence. Just because you risked your life doesn't mean anything. It only means that you're passionate about it, which is fine.
And exactly that. And Flint also a little bit dismissed he became a little also snobby in the end when they were talking about Egypt. He was like, just smart people did the pyramids. Like, bro, like, it's very spectacular. Let's admit that. It was really funny the very end because Joe Rogan tried to end it in a very positive note. And I think both sides were like, yeah, well, let's just pretend we're happy with each other for the end of the podcast.